Hello, my name's Sue Baker and I've been a crafter for, well over 25 years, but I've been a mixed media artist for the last 10 years. So I'm really excited today because I want you to join me on a mixed media journey. I'm going to tell you all about mixed media, I'm going to demystify mixed media, and then I'm going to take you step by step through mixed media, explain what it means and help you to understand the journey that you're going to take and you're really going to enjoy just like me. So let's look at mixed media. What does the term mixed media mean? It comes from art, and if you're an artist and say you'd done a pen and ink drawing and you'd added some pastel colours to it, that would be a mixed media piece. So really the term mixed media means mixing mediums together. It's as simple as that. It's not as complicated as it sounds. And in craft, it's brilliant because we've got so many choices for mixed media. We've got lots of mediums that we can use. We can use stamps, we can use paint, we could use waxes, we can use stencil pastes, we can use paint, we can use die cuts. So all the skills and techniques that you've learnt on maybe your paper crafting journey, you can start to use on your mixed media journey as well. So that's quite exciting because it means that you don't necessarily have to learn lots of different skills, and I think that gives us all confidence in what we're going to do. So step by step, I'm going to take you on your mixed media journey. So how do we get started in mixed media? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to find a base to work on. And there's a very fancy name for that. We call it substrates, but really, if you're a paper crafter, you'd be working on card or paper or acetate. So in mixed media, we tend to work on lots of different surfaces. Now, this is canvas, and an ordinary white canvas, you can get them in lots of different sizes, lots of different shapes. And of course, this isn't traditional mixed media, and this will take your gessos and your paints and heavier mediums. We can also use something called construction board, which is a bit like very heavy smooth cardboard. It's slightly flexible, but it will take a lot of heavy mediums. The next thing we can use in mixed media is we could use wood or we can use MDF. Now MDF is a brilliant surface because it's very stable. MDF is actually compressed wood, so it's lovely and smooth. It's great to gesso, to paint, to add all your other mediums and to stencil on. You can get it in different shapes and sizes. As you can see, I've got different shapes and sizes here that I've been working on. So what else can we use for mixed media? Well, it gets really exciting because we can actually use glass. We could use ceramic, we could use plasterware, because mixed media is lots of different mediums. We can also do mixed media onto fabric. You might like to decorate some tote bags, you might want to decorate a t-shirt, so don't be afraid of fabric because fabric looks wonderful, and I'm going to show you some fabulous examples later. So let's move on to some of the products that we use in mixed media. So the very first product that we tend to use is a really good gesso, a nice heavyweight base gesso, because that's the first thing that we do. We base up all these substrates, all these bases that I've talked to you about. We cover them with gesso first of all. We might then move on to some really good quality acrylic paint. We might even use some wonderful spritzers. So these are inks, these are spray inks, and we use a lot of these in mixed media. We could also go on to use our waxes. So this is just a little example of some of the waxes that are available in mixed media. Then of course we go on to our heavier mediums. So something like a structure paste, which is a real heavy based medium. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how to use these later, but I just want to introduce you to some of the products, some of these fabulous products that are out there. We can also use, this is called rusty patina. So these are patinas as well as mediums, and I'm going to show you some gorgeous examples of that. So there are lots and lots of different paints, different mediums, and different things that we can use on our mixed media journey. So, before I give you my top tips and techniques for how you can make mixed media work for you, I just wanted to have a quick word with you about products. For me, it's very important that I have the best products available. Now, there's a reason I'm saying that. The best products are usually water-based, so that means that you can mix them with other mediums, so you can colour them. They're nice and thick, they're really good quality, so that means that you're in control. That means that you can water them down, that you can add colour to it if you want to, and you'll find them a lot easier to use. If you buy something that's just a little bit cheaper, sometimes it's got a lot more water already added and it becomes a lot more difficult to use. So good products mean you're in control. So now I'm going to give you one of my best top tips, and this is always use a metal spatula. Now, I know a lot of people say use a plastic spatula, but for me personally, I find there's a lot more control with a metal spatula. It's nice and firm. It helps me to spread the medium much more easily. So here I've put a stencil onto a canvas and I've got some structure paste. Now, I introduced you very briefly to structure paste, but structure paste is one of the main products that is going to start giving you wonderful layers on all your mixed media canvases and is really fantastic to use with your stencils. So you can see that I use the paste on the back of my spatula and I'm in control of where I'm spreading the medium. Always, always wipe your knife clean and make sure that you put your product back into the pot because it's reusable. And then, because we've had a really good quality structure paste, we get a really nice outline, and especially of all the writing, which is really important. Now, I'm going to share with you one of my real trade secrets for top tip 2. And this is something that I discovered over the years and I absolutely love it, and I know you will too. And when I meet lots of you at craft shows, you always say to me, what do you work on? So, my next tip is always have a non-stick mat to work on. Now, what I've done here is, this is a non-stick craft mat, and I've got a nice man in a DIY store to cut me a piece of MDF, and I've cut my non-stick craft mat to fit, and I just used some spray adhesive and stuck it down. If you want to start small, then you could start with a placemat. Make sure it's a nice big old placemat, but then you could stick your non-stick craft mat to that. This is brilliant because it's heat resistant. So if you've got the non-stick craft mat that's heat resistant, you could, if you wanted to, go to your local supermarket and buy the sort of mat that you put in the bottom of your oven, because that's heat resistant and that's non-stick as well. And it's great for mixing your paints on, putting your waxes on, and it cleans up really easily. If you've got a glass mat because you've been crafting for some time and maybe you've invested in a glass mat, then you can use that for mixed media as well. Top tip number 3 is brushes. Don't spend a lot of money on brushes, because just an ordinary acrylic brush is absolutely brilliant. You don't need fancy squirrel hair or anything like that. They're going to be in and out of glue, in and out of mediums, and these are absolutely fantastic and they'll do the job. Top tip number 4, get yourself some extra empty spritzer bottles, because then these fabulous products that you've invested in will go so much further. So your beautiful shimmer paints, you can pop a little into the bottom of your spritzer bottle, add some water, and you've got a wonderful shimmery spritz. You can do the same with your wax. You can make a wax spritz, little in the bottom, warm water, and off you go. And your beautiful deep ink sprays. Put a little in the bottom, add some water, and immediately you've got a lighter colour. So empty spritzer bottles, don't be without them. Top tip number 5 is keep going. Now, the reason I say that is because when you start out in mixed media, you might be a little bit afraid, you might be worried, you'll start on your canvas and think to yourself, oh, I'm not sure about this, where do I go with this? And a really good friend of mine some years ago said to me when I got to that stage, keep going. And when I got to this canvas and I'd actually used all my structure paste in the background, like I showed you earlier. I was really unsure as to where to go with it. Should I add the butterflies? Should I add the flowers? But I kept going, and I was really happy then with what I produced. So have faith in yourself. You're better than you think you are. So earlier we touched on the kind of products that you'll be using when you're using your mixed media. And I want to focus on two particular products at the moment, because I know I get lots of questions about these, so I want to show you how to use them. Now the first is decoupage glue, and there are lots of questions out there about what's the right glue to use. I particularly like, this is called a fabric decoupage glue. Now again, going back to what I told you about, get the best products you can. Fabric decoupage glue does what it says on the tin. It actually works on fabric as well as every other surface. So this is a great value product to buy, and I'm going to show you how you use it with rice paper, because I know a lot of you say to me, well, what do you do with rice paper? What is rice paper? Well, rice paper is actually produced from a different part of the plant than the bit that we use in cooking. So this is not edible rice paper. But what you can do with rice paper, you can use it as a whole background. So if I had a canvas and I wanted a complete decorative background, I could stick this on with my decoupage glue. But I'm going to show you something a bit more interesting with this. So you saw then that I got my paintbrush just in water, and I just flicked it across the corner of my rice paper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tear the rice paper. Rice paper is thin and translucent, and it will give you, when you tear it, a beautiful, soft, feathery edge. So then what I will do, I would do several sections of this, and then I'm going to paste it with my decoupage glue onto my canvas. So all I'm going to do is pop this down. You don't have to worry about where you put it. Decoupage glue, and particularly fabric decoupage glue, acts as a glue and a sealer. And I'm going to show you something magical in a minute. So all you do is pop your rice paper down, and then over the top, because you want to seal it, you want to make sure that all those edges are glued down and you've sealed it over the top. So how does this look when we use our whole sheet of rice paper? Well, it looks like this. So you can see I've torn it exactly the way I've shown you. I've stuck it down with my fabric decoupage glue, and I've used it as a sealer over the top. So when you have completed your canvas, your first piece, I used a stamp with this, but can you see how wonderful this looks? It gives you a frame for your piece. So quick, so easy to use, and fabric decoupage glue, as you can see, it dries perfectly matte. So matte and clear, and it's going to seal your work. But I promised you I'd show you a little bit of magic with fabric decoupage glue. So here, this is why I've called it fabric decoupage glue. Here, I've used fabric decoupage glue on fabric because it's waterproof. And again, this goes back to what I was telling you about, get the very best products that you can, because this now becomes washable. And this is the paper. This is the rice paper. But because of the fabric decoupage glue, you can't see the joins. And I think that's just absolutely brilliant. And this would be my glue of choice. The next product I'm going to introduce you to is called Rusty Patina. Now, a patina. We've talked about mediums, we've talked about pastes. This is a patina. Now, what is a patina? We know that we say, oh, the patina of age. If you're looking at a piece of furniture and it's highly polished, then all the experts talk about it and say, oh, look at the patina on that. Look at the finish. So really, the patina is the finish. Now, rusty patina, and this really does do what it says on the tin, it gives you a rusty effect. So what I've done here is I've popped a stencil down onto a journal, and all I'm doing is I'm just spreading my rusty patina over the top. Now you can hear that this actually is very textural. Now, mixed media is about layers of texture, and as you can imagine, rusty patina is going to give you gorgeous textural layers. So all you do is you just spread it. You mix the colours together and you carry on spreading, and it's got that wonderful, beautiful, gritty texture to it because it actually contains rust particles. Now this is such a versatile medium because as well as you can hear, scraping it with my spatula through my stencil, I've only done a little bit here, but it will give you a flavour of what we're looking at, as well as actually applying it with a stencil that's going to give me these wonderful textural lines. You can also use a brush to apply rusty patina. I'm going to show you two things. When we've used this through the stencil, we then do a technique called knocking back with a bit of gesso. So we paint some gesso over it to make it look fainter. So let's have a look what this really means. So this is our textural rusty patina. And I've done this, if I turn it round properly for you, I've done this on an art journal. So it's giving me that wonderful, thick, chunky, rusty feel to it. And I've added a little bit of gesso over the top. Now, rusty patina, if I want to give it a smoother finish, then another journal that I've got here, and all I'm going to do then is I'm just going to use a little bit of the back of my palette knife, and I'm just going to start adding highlights and painting it. Now, I know I've finished this journal, but it doesn't matter. I can add little rusty elements over the top of this, so I can brush my rusty patina onto my canvases, my journals, my MDF, my wood. And when it's brushed, we get a much smoother finish. I've used it on die cuts here. I've actually used it on some leather here. So rusty patina is an incredible, versatile product. So you can see just how wonderful this looks. I'm just going to show you finally rusty patina on a canvas. I don't want to scare you, but this is spectacular. Now this is real mixed media, and this is all painted with rusty patina with little textural highlights added with my palette knife. So this is what you can achieve with just a couple of the products that you're going to use in your mixed media journey. I'm really looking forward to this bit because now I can bring everything together that we've been talking about and that I've been showing you, all the products and all the ideas, and you can see all the finished pieces, and this will help your creativity as well. So first of all, we talked about canvases. We had a fancy name, substrate. So this is a canvas, and as you can see here, I did mention to you, you've probably got lots of things in your stash and lots of techniques and skills that you've learned as a paper crafter. So once you've applied your paint onto your canvas, use your stamps, use your dies, colour them in just like you would if you were preparing a card. It's still mixed media and you can make these gorgeous, really pretty pieces. And I like to have things around as a bit of inspiration when I'm working. And on a canvas like this, I love this because this for me encapsulates what I feel about mixed media. Again, we're using those wonderful mixed media ink sprays in the background. We're using stencils, using die cuts down here, painting them, adding colour, adding a word that I've die cut down here. So you can see when you look at these pieces, they're wonderful, they're simple, they're easy to follow. And I've actually added a little bit of texture and a tiny bit of a sparkle paste through a stencil here. Now we talked about structure paste and we talked about white structure paste that I was using. Now this illustrates beautifully how when you use a white paste, how you can sort of zhuzh it up a bit, you can make it a bit more sparkly. So all I've done here is, while it was wet, I added some glitter on the top. Really simple, really straightforward. I spritzed with my mixed media ink sprays and literally I just got a paintbrush and then I just rubbed a bit of a baby wipe on to create a few clouds. And here is a little bit of rice paper. So you see, when you put it together, it's easy, it's simple, but it's really pretty and really effective. Now I want to inspire you a little bit with my next piece. This is a glass plate, and if you remember at the beginning we talked about, again, bases, substrates, glass paint, and many people say to me, but how do you do that? Can you use the plate afterwards? Can you put things on the plate? Yes, of course you can. The secret to this is working from the back. So on the back, I did a bit of stenciling, I stuck my rice paper onto it, and then I painted with a wonderful glitter paint over the top. Then I just added a clear varnish, so this now becomes washable. So this is the sort of thing that you can do onto a glass plate. So I want to talk to you very quickly about art journaling, and this might be a term that you've heard and you're wondering, well, what is an art journal and why would I use one? Well, an art journal really is a sort of creative diary, and anything can be an art journal. You could use, this was an old leather diary, and I've decorated it. You saw it previously with rusty patina, and it's just a record of the paints I might have used, if I wanted a particular colour of mixed media ink spray. It might be a stamp I wanted to try out, and I would just put that in my art journal and just make a note of the date, the time, the project I used it on. And you can decorate your art journals any way you like. Again, I showed you this earlier. This is just decorated with rusty patina and some dies and stamps. What I find is really useful, you can get art journals that are actually covered in canvas. So this is great for your mixed media, because if they have canvas covers, then again, you can add all your mediums to it. And you may remember that I used rusty patina on one here. So basically, an art journal is just a record, a diary of maybe your favourite dies, your favourite stamps, a little bit of stenciling, and some of the colours that you've been using in your projects. So I hope you've enjoyed all the inspiration that I've shown you, and I hope it's given you a bit of confidence to start out on your mixed media journey. And a lot of the products that I've shown you and a lot of the techniques and skills, you already have them. And if you were a paper crafter, then use your dies, use your stamps, use your colouring mediums. And if you want to have a go with rice paper, have confidence that it's going to look absolutely fantastic. These are cards, but they're mixed media cards. And as we always said, mixed media is just a term for mixing mediums together. So whether you're a stamper, whether you love decoupage, whether you love painting, whether you love colouring, whether you love die cutting, mixed media is for you. So I hope this has given you some ideas, spark your creativity, and more than anything, I'd love you if you'd share it with me. So let me know how you get on and message me and tell me about your mixed media journey.